So as I mentioned before, looking at a few changes to the bi-directional freight line, the start of which really is when you approach the station. So coming in here underneath the bridge at the top, I'm changing this for a left-hand curved point going into a right-hand larger radius point, replacing the left and right-hand medium points that are in there at the moment. So that should give me a better flow. So when a train's coming through here, obviously it'll be going quite slow anyway, but it'll just be a better transition and a smoother crossing as it comes through into the loop by the station. And then if we look back here, you can see where the points are coming in here. This point here will be removed, which will straighten up the run round loop as it comes by here. That's the run round stroke freight bypass loop. And then you can see I've started laying out a bit of track roughly how I'd like my depot layout to be. So as you come off this point here, this will be a stabling loop here alongside the station. So something a little bit like Didcot, and for those of you who are familiar with that. And then obviously we'll have various points turning out into the depot building just here. Probably what will be a fueling line alongside. And then this track here will come off. This is currently the programming track here, so I shall continue that around the corner underneath the bridge to here, and that will stay as the programming track. But obviously with my DCC Concepts Aegis system, all I need is a break in the track, and then that allow me to program things just round the corner off the board and then run them directly onto the layout. So I'll probably make that into something just like, again, because there'll be a scenic break here by the bridge, so that'll probably be something a bit like the old Bristol Bath Road avoiding line, if people know that. And then looking in the opposite direction, we have the various turnouts that will take you back onto the bi-directional freight line when you come out of the depot and stabling area. Carriage wash, which will be just in the foreground here, and this is still the end of my current programming track. And then the Cato track, Unitrack, still disappears up to the left for running my older DC locos. That will stay in place for a while. Ultimately it will go, but I won't be putting the DCC fitted track right up to the edge of the board, because I shall make that scenic, so I'm not literally using every inch of the board right up to the edge. So for now the Cato Unitrack can stay there and keep running, and then once I've got the majority of my fleet DCC fitted, that'll probably come out, and then I'll be able to landscape the inside of the layout. So next job now is to continue and finish off the bi-directional freight line. So currently that's where the concrete track comes round there. Just takes me to where the edge of the tunnel is on the main line. So I've literally just got to fill that gap in up to the point and the bit of track I've got over there, and then that will be complete. So this section in the foreground here, which is where the engineering yard's going to be. So again, I've just got a few points laid out down there just to give you an idea on spacings and length of wagon rakes I'll be able to fit in there, and then roughly where that turnout ends there, that will come round and join into the end of the point just there. Not 100% decided yet on where I've got that tunnel at the minute, one or indeed both lines will be going into the tunnel there, or whether I might have a retaining wall. So the idea is, where I've just got that bit of polystyrene, just give me an idea of height and depth where the tunnel is going to be. It's more to make it look like the main lines there disappear straight into the tunnel and carry on into the distance is the idea, as opposed to it's literally hiding a curve. So having the lines in the foreground curve round in front of a retaining wall would probably give more of an idea that it is separate and is not going the same direction as the tunnel. And then there'll be something similar for the tunnel mouth on this side. Again, where you go into there, it'll make it look like you're carry on straighten up there into the corner again, as opposed to going round a curve. But for now, I think I will get that track laid, bridge the gap round there, swap those points over in the station, and then I'll come back to you when that's all done. So there you go. As you can see, I've installed the left-hand curve and the right-hand long point in there, which is give a smoother transition coming out of the curve and onto the freight loop, or the run round loop as it doubles as. Slight adjustment to this platform will be needed, but no big issue there. And as you can see now, a 56 on the yeoman comes round. So that's now on the run round or the bi-directional freight line. There's a slight issue there where I'm getting a little bit of arcing occasionally, and I'm not sure why, because they're insel frog points, but I need to look into that, where there's a bit of metal somewhere. So following it round now, so still staying on the bi-directional freight line. You've got the up and down main lines just on the other side of it. Turnout there is what will take us into the engineering yard. You can just see where I've got the points temporarily laid down to give you an idea of spacing for that engineering yard there. HST in the foregrounds on the Cato Unitrack for DC locos. Diving into the hidden section now and into the fiddle yard for the slow lines, which will then take us back to where we started. So yeah, apart from that slight short or arcing issue, which occasionally does trip out with something like the 33 doesn't really like that. Like I say, whether it's a faulty point or something, because they're insel frogs and I've got the wirings all correct, so it shouldn't trip out. So just something I need to look at a bit more. So just to show you what I mean, we'll bring the 33 through now, nice and slowly with its engineering rake, and you should hear the sort of short and the arcing come from the track. There, that time even my DCC Concepts Aegis system has cut it out. So the fact that it's cut out on that point there would indicate to me that's the one I've got the problem on, but I still haven't been able to see what it is. So closer investigation is required, and possibly a replacement of that point, I guess. Maybe you heard the arcing and the short on that occasion. But other than the issue with that point, everything else seems to have gone okay with the track laying. So it's given me a slightly longer loop where the Mark 1s and the 37 are in there in the platform. And then, like I say, the line in the front of that is the bi-directional freight line, but also acts as the run round loop for any loco hauled services terminating and running back here. And then in the front of that, the next line forward is the stabling line. As I mentioned, a little something like Didcot would be, where there'll be easily 3 or 4 locos will fit in there to be stabled alongside the station. In front of that, where I've got the point at the minute, possibility I can fit another stabling loop in there, or that might just end up with a one-way siding in there. And then the line in front of that brings us access to what is going to be the depot area, which at the minute I'm looking at basically a 2-road shed, possibly not that shed building we've got now. I have got a couple of others from the previous layout. Alongside there, possibly that'll be the fueling line or another stabling line. The line where it curves around to the right here and will go disappear behind the scenic brake. That will be ultimately the programming track as it is at the moment, but I'll make it look like it's maybe like a bypass line or something going down to another siding. And then as we come back this way, points to cross coming out of the depot to access the lines to get onto the main line and into the engineering yard. Loco wash, I think roughly going to sit somewhere about there. And then I have installed a turnout there, possibly that might just end up being a short siding again for stabling a loco there. Does give me the option of running round into the engineering yard on another line though if I want. So let's have a closer look at my plan for the depot. So as you can see, it's a 2-road shed there, capable of storing 4 locos under cover. And then there'll be enough space to park a loco out of the front of the shed on this end, on either line. And as you come through the back, enough room to have a loco on each line out the back as well. Refueling line alongside there, which will easily take 3 locos in there if I want, or would take a 3-car DMU. So then as you come off the depot, you'll join into there, and then there's the refueling line as well. So a couple of crossovers there. Essentially, one takes you back up onto the main part of the layout, and that would take you around to the engineer's yard. And then that'll be a loco stroke carriage wash there. Again, easily take 2 or 3 locos through there, and a 3-car DMU is the plan. And then as we come back, there'll be a little branch dives off to the right of the depot. That will take us round here, essentially the scenic brakes there, just where you can see that line across here. Takes us back in the fiddle yard, but then from this point on here, there'll be a straight line running along there, which will be my programming track. And then I can keep that separate from the main circuit, but I can run locos once they're programmed onto the main circuit using the DCC Concepts Aegis system that I've got. And then there'll be just another 3 sidings up there, which will be basically to store locos, maybe a little bit of stock, before it runs onto the main layout. And then as we come back round, where that point dives off there, there'll be another line which will run up somewhere and stop near the end, again near the carriage wash up there with the bridge. Whether that be a stabling line or some engineering wagons or something, but it gives me the scope to do quite a bit with that. So that's the plan for the depot area. Time to get some track laying, pinning and wiring done. So after a little bit of work, there we go. That's the depot and stabling area completed. Or at least for now. It'll obviously want a bit more detailing. And I'm thinking of putting a sunken inspection pit into the depot building itself. But this is pretty much how the track layout's going to be. So if we come back to the station, there's the stabling line I mentioned with the 4 Class 66s sitting on it, so similar to the sort of thing you'd see if you were at Didcot Parkway station. And then just a quick spin to the left, track coming up there through the carriage or loco wash. There'll be just a dead end side in there. So, and the depot, which is those 2 track line to the depot, and then alongside will be the fueling road. And then this short line that comes round here take us just past the bridge, which is roughly where the scenic break will be there, just near where that point is. So the fiddle yards in the background. And then in this bit here, I've just put a series of extra sidings in, so I can stable locos or a bit of stock around there, just so it's easier to run onto the main layout. And then the near track here next to the Kato Unitrack, that's the programming track, which now is connected onto the main circuit with a break there, so it's isolated, so I can program locos on that section of track, and then they can be just run onto the main layout to join the rest of the locos. So yeah, that's for now, that's the depot completed. So there you can see the extra fiddle yard sidings I've got in there, loaded up with a few different wagon types. Not as large obviously as the loops on the main layout for the fiddle yard itself, but still room to stable quite a nice little selection there, which can either be shorter rakes of wagons, or potentially could use it for filling it with locos where I'm running between different eras. So if I was running in the present day era, this could just have all things like the 33s, 50s, the older 47s stabled in there, whilst more modern locos were on the main layout, or vice versa if I was running the early 90s period. So yeah, quite a bit of room for stock in there now. So I've got some more dropper wires and Scotch lock clips on order, so I can finish the depot area off properly and then move on to the next project, which will be the engineering yard just here. So I've roughly got some track laid out how I think it's going to go. So essentially 3 loops there, longest one at the far end, again getting progressively shorter, then with a run round loop nearest to us, just next to the HST on the Kato Unitrack, possibly a wagon repair depot there at the end, head shunt siding on the top of that to allow certainly at least a 66 to be able to run round. Possibly I'll allow for something like a couple of 33s or even a couple of 37s to be able to run round there. And and that will come around there, siding at the end just for a few small wagons or possibly stabling, and then that line there will join up, you can see, with that point there. Now, as I should be having class 08 and wanting to do a bit of shunting, what I'm thinking of doing is making all of these points here electrofrog points, so that you won't have the issue you quite have with the short wheelbase shunter locos cutting out when they go over the frogs. That'll make things a little bit more awkward, I think, when it comes to wiring, but as long as I put brakes and insulating fish plates in the right places, I think I should be okay with that. But certainly, like I said, if I'm running an 08 backwards and forwards, you don't want it cutting out on the frogs. So that's the next stage of this layout. So the Scotch lock clips and dropper wire that I was waiting for arrived. So I've been able to finish off the depot area now and wired it in properly, so each line's got its own dedicated feed now. So essentially that's the basics of the depot and stabling area done now. Obviously all the detailing work and everything is still to come, like with the rest of the layout. So track laying and wiring wise, the next two projects to essentially finish off the layout are the Heritage Line turntable behind the camera at the moment. So that will need obviously cutting out to be able to sink the turntable in and take the associated sidings off of there. That'll probably be the last thing I would tackle. So the next thing is the engineering yard, which I've been talking about. So if you've got any thoughts or comments on my idea for using the electrofrog points, the layout I've got of the basic 3 loops, a couple of shorter sidings, the head shunt, etc., let me know in the comments, of course. But otherwise, I will see you on the next video. So if you like this, please take a moment to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already for regular updates, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.